work as a student? The short answer is yes, but let's cover that over the next 30 minutes. Welcome back. My name is Jason. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes to 60 minutes talking about how to get a job on campus. So this is a very, very important question, and it's a common question because what it covers is, well, what it factors into is how can you afford to study in the United States? Because for most people, studying in the United States can be expensive or can have a large cost. So what can you do about it? So we've already talked about things like scholarships, financing from your family, getting a student loan. But one of the things that you can do definitely is work on campus. So even as an international student, you can work on campus, and it's a good way to help bring in money, bring in an income while you work. It's also a great way to get experience that looks good on your resume so that when you apply to jobs after you graduate, it definitely helps. Okay, so we'll dive right into this. So the first question is, can I work on campus? The short answer is, like I said, yes. And so the long answer is, yes, you can, as long as you stay in status. And so when the immigration office or the admissions office at your university or international student services office says stay in status, what does that really mean? Well, what it really means is as long as your visa and your I-20 are both active, as long as you do not make it so those get canceled. So as long as you're in status, you're fine. So, but you have to be very, very strict about this because the U.S. government doesn't mess around. If you mess up and you do something that breaks that that visa, guess what? You're going home. And so there's a risk versus a reward. So technically, what does it mean to stay in status? It means that you are not working more than 20 hours a week. So you can work up to 20 hours a week while you're studying. So you can work up to 20 hours a week while you study. You have to be passing all of your classes. So it doesn't matter if, like, let's say there's a test in the middle of a semester and you do horrible and your grade is not passing. As long as by the end of the semester you are passing, that's what counts. So you're passing your classes and you're taking a full load of classes. Now, what does it mean to be taking a full load? That's typically 12 credits for undergraduate and 9 credits for graduate. So as long as you're taking a full load, you could remain in status. Now, this job also has to be an on-campus job. So you can't be working off campus at, let's say, Best Buy or Walmart. You have to be working on campus. So I'm going to show you in a little bit how to find those jobs, but you got to be working on campus. So one of the things I mentioned, you can work up to 20 hours a week while you study. Now, there's a little asterisk next to this. And so you can work up to 20 hours a week while you study. So the question is, what if you're not studying? So one thing that's not commonly discussed is when studying in the United States, if you study for 9 months or 9 months-ish, so 2 semesters, so 2 academic semesters or 3 academic quarters. So if you study for 9 months, by immigration, you actually do qualify for a vacation semester. This vacation semester allows you to stay in the United States without studying. So congratulations, you earned 3 months to where you can just relax in the United States. So you don't have to return to your home country. You can, and that's pretty common, but that's mostly to go see family. But you can indeed stay in the United States, or you could work. And so during that vacation semester, actually you can work 40 hours a week on campus, or up to 40 hours a week. It's not common. It's not common, to be honest. Most students, like I said, will go home and go visit their family, or honestly, they'll just relax for their mental health. But yes, you can indeed work up to 20 hours while you study, 40 hours on semesters where you have a vacation semester. Now, what type of jobs will you get? It's really up to you. Like, there's a lot of different jobs on campus. You could work at a restaurant, so like on campus dining. So you could work in the cafeteria. You could work at a fast food place. That's cool. You could work in a computer lab. Like, you could do IT. You could do stuff like that. You could work in the gym where you check people in, check people out. There's a lot of jobs on campus. The most important thing, though, is that you're enjoying it and you're getting paid. Like, there are safety standards in the United States that don't exist in other countries. So, for example, OSHA is one of them. You don't need to really know what that means. All it means really is that you, as an employee, are safe, and your employer is never going to ask you to do something that will put you in danger. So they're never going to be like, oh, hey, can you dive into this dumpster and scrub it? Like, no. They're never going to ask, oh, can you climb this 80-foot tree and cut down some fruit? No, they're never going to ask you to do things that are dangerous. And so they're safe. The ideal, though, is that when you're working, you also are able to build the experience needed so that your resume looks impressive. So if you are working, say, in computer science, great. You might want to get a job on campus, either in a computer lab because that has to do with IT, or get a job at as a programmer working on a special project for a professor. Or let's say you're majoring in marketing. Great. Some schools will have a marketing lab, or you get an employment as doing marketing for the university, even as a part-time student. So that way, when you graduate, that experience is already on your resume or your CV, as it's commonly known internationally. But have that on your resume, on your CV, and that will help make you look impressive when it comes time to get a job. So yes, indeed, you can work on campus. There's a lot of details behind it, but it's actually highly recommended. How much will I make? And that is a very common question, great question. The answer is minimum wage. So what does minimum wage look like? So it really depends on the state. In some states, minimum wage is $7 an hour. In other states, it's $10 an hour. So it really depends on the state. But right now, I'm talking to you in the year 2023. In 2023, actually, there's an interesting demand in the United States. For one reason or another, when students are working, they don't really want to get jobs right now. So what it means is there's actually quite a few jobs available. So because supply and demand, so there's there's not a high demand for jobs. So there's an oversupply. And so employers on campus actually are willing to pay above minimum wage at most campuses. Heck, I know one campus where students are making $12 an hour starting. So $12 an hour plus the student gets $2 of meal credit for each hour. So what that means is they're making $12 an hour in money, and it gets paid every 2 weeks. So they're getting paid. But at the same time, their food, their meals are also getting covered. Because if they get $2 of meal credit per hour, if they're working 20 hours a week, that's like getting $40 worth of food each week just for free. Like, great. That's actually a huge perk. So let's say someone is working $12 an hour, taking out my trusty calculator on my phone, $12 an hour working 20 hours a week, that's $240. Now, what can be expected as far as taxes go? Out of $240, I'd expect between $40 and $60. So for simple math, let's just say $40. So you'd be taking home about $200 every every week. So that's pretty good. So that's about $800 a month. So that's a pretty decent wage for a student. And so it really depends again on the state. And so honestly, you could just Google minimum wage in the state of Texas, in the state of Utah, in the state of California. So just type in minimum wage in the state of blank, and you'll be able to look it up. So nice and simple. But again, you can work 20 hours a week or up to 20 hours a week. And those are good jobs. So yes, that's how much you'll be making. Now, the big question is, how do I get a job? So there's a lot of different ways to get a job. And like I said, there's a lot of different jobs on campus. So here's what we are going to do. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So for the sake of simplicity, I used Bing. Bing is awesome, I guess. So all I did was UCLA jobs on campus. Nice and simple. You could type in really any university and just type in jobs on campus. Nice and simple. And so what you see here, current job and career openings and opportunities. You could click on that, but that's not exactly what you're looking for. What you're looking for here is this UCLA student jobs, because this first one here, when it says careers, that's more of talking of people who are adults, who are grown, who want to work at UCLA 40 hours a week. So that's what that's asked. That's what that is. So you want to go down to here, the UCLA student jobs, click on that. Great. So AS UCLA student jobs. So there's job openings. So yes, there's lots of different jobs you can get. But this is where you want to be. So what this shows is all the different jobs available. And so there's, for example, food service worker. Great, you could go work in the cafeteria. Application programmer, awesome. Oops. Accidentally clicked on one. Per diem, that has different meaning to it, different situations. In this case, it means hourly. So what you want, like, let's say you want to apply for this cook position, or actually this one's kind of cool, a barista. So you're working in the coffee shop. So then you view it, $18.90 to $20, basically $25 an hour. Like, that's actually pretty dang good. So that's where you could apply. Then this is just the job description, nice and simple. And so, and then there's details below it. Then you hit apply for this posting. It's going to ask you to log in, upload your resume and your cover letter. So, so what you want to do is find the right job for you and figure out what it is that you want to do. And so this, like I said, this is just an example of UCLA. UCLA is in Los Angeles, California, and the wages there in general are actually higher because the cost of living is also higher. Ask anyone in LA. And so the rent in LA might be, say, 3 times what it is in Nevada, in Utah, in neighboring states, in Portland. Oh, sorry, in Oregon, not in Portland. And so cost of living, where it's higher, the minimum wage will be higher or the hourly wage will be higher. So UCLA, that's just an example. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. So what is that you want? So how do you get that job? So a couple things. The first thing that you do is you find that job. So again, you could search online. Every campus also has a resource office. So they have an office that you could just simply walk into and get access to the list of jobs currently available. What's cool about that resource is a lot of times there will be someone working there who might know of a job that just became available but is not posted yet. So they could help you out. They usually also have resources where they can give you tips on resumes and interviews, because those are also needed for to get a job. And I can tell you that the number one thing that employers look for student workers is reliable. Are you reliable? Do you show up to your shifts? If you get sick, do you communicate? Yes, you can. Yes, you can communicate. Yes, you can send a text message if you're sick. And so one thing that's also really cool about working on campus is they'll work with you with your schedule. So let's say you have classes on Tuesday and Thursday all day. Great. They'll schedule you or work your schedule so that you're working Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they'll work around your schedule. So that is actually pretty. Most of the time, the bosses actually do care. They want you to be a happy employee and a good student to pass your classes. And so they'll work with you to help schedule the classes they'll schedule the work schedule around your classes. Okay, so I mentioned that there's a couple things that are needed, like a resume, a cover letter, and an interview most of the time, unless they're super desperate and it's like, okay, just give me your resume and off we go. So we'll cover those things in greater detail in another video. But what the resume is your work history. And so you're in college, you're in university, chances are you don't have a ton of work experience. That's fine. You can still, if you have zero work experience, that's fine too. The way that you build out your resume then is you talk about what projects you've done. So if you've ever been a project lead, if you've ever been on athletics, if you've ever been on student government. So you map that out. So you show those types of work experience. One thing to note as an international student, the biggest mistake that international students do with their resume is they put their picture on it, or they put their gender, like male, female, whatever. They put their gender on it, or they'll also put like things like their marital status, their weight, things like that. Do not put any of that on your resume, and for good reason. The reason why is because, frankly, if that is on a resume in the United States, they'll just throw out the resume. And the reason why is because of lawsuits. Because let's say you're ugly like me. Let's say you're ugly and you have your picture on your resume and you don't get a job. So they hired someone else, you did not get a job, and your face is on it. You can be like, oh, they didn't hire me because I'm ugly. I'm going to sue them, like for discrimination against ugly people. Yeah, so they don't even want to come close to that, so they're just going to throw it out. Same with sex, same with weight, same with marital status, same with gender, like anything. So, yeah, they don't want to get even close to a discrimination lawsuit. And so it's not worth the time. So if you send in a resume that has any of those things on it, they're just going to throw it out. So don't have it on. So we'll cover resumes in a future video, but just keep in mind that that is how you go about it. Like in a nutshell, that's what's on a resume. You do have to complete an application. And so the application usually will ask for simple things like your address, your phone number, your name, previous work history, and what classes you're taking for an on-campus job. It's nice and simple. So you apply, send in your resume. Sometimes they'll ask for a cover letter or a work example. The reason why they ask for this is they just want to see that you could put a story together and describe how you could do the job. So, for example, let's say you're trying to work in a computer lab. Great. Hopefully, you know computers. So in your cover letter, that's where you could discuss how you know computers. You could talk about your passion for computers. This is really where it doesn't have to be long, just a couple quick paragraphs. I recommend 3. Just keep it short and talk about how you're passionate about that topic. So again, if you're working in as a math tutor, great. Have your resume highlight your grades in math, but then in the cover letter, talk about how passionate you are about math and how excited you are. So that's a cover letter, and the cover letter is kind of, think of it like this, as a letter from you to the employer saying why you deserve the job. So it's kind of like the statement of purpose for admissions. That's a letter from you to admissions describing why you feel you should be admitted to the university. The cover letter is a letter from you to the employer describing why you should get the job. And again, keep it short, single page, 3 paragraphs. First paragraph is an introduction, sets the stage. Like, hi, my name is Kim Jong-suk, and I'm passionate about mathematics. I'm a strong candidate I consider myself a strong candidate to be a math tutor at UCLA. Then second paragraph, explain why, like back it up. I was top of my class in math. I got an A+, a perfect score in calculus. I tutored my peers before before the final exam, and some of my friends who I thought were going to fail actually passed the class and did great. Last paragraph is seal the deal. Thank you so much for listening. Please contact me if anything else is needed for consideration. Thank you. Close, the end, off it goes. Nice and simple. So I've been reviewing applications and resumes for a while now, so that's why I'm able to do it kind of off the top of my head with just a couple notes. Okay, so you've applied. The interview is important. So as a final step, they're going to interview you. So what does an interview look like? Depends on the job. Usually it's about 10 to 15 minutes. It's low key. As a student, as a potential employee, the main thing that you have to remember is they want employees. They need employees. And so don't be super desperate. Like, yes, act eager for the job, be excited for the job, act like you really want the job because you do, but don't be what we would call overzealous. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I really need this job, because that just seems kind of weird, to be honest. Because what that also opens up is, let's say you're starting, let's say for some reason or another they need to let you go, the job ends, you're just not a perfect fit, whatever. They're going to have a hard time letting you go because you're that passionate, and it's going to make it really weird. And so you want to be excited, but not overzealous, if that makes sense. And so you want to interview well. A couple things that Americans look for in the interview. So just like with the visa interview or the interview for the student visa, what mostly we look for is confidence and communication. Because again, it's a student job. They're not looking for like 20 years of experience. They're looking for, okay, can you do the job that's posted? Like, can you make coffee? Can you tutor in math? Whatever. Can you do the job? And if you're sick, can you communicate? Every now and then, depends on the situation, they may look for other skills like for example, if you're working in shipping, like in the mail room, can you pick up more than 20 pounds? Like, that is something that it's okay for them to ask because it's a safety concern. Or let's say you're going to be working at a restaurant. Great. Do you have customer service skills? Are you nice? Because they don't want someone that's grumpy. So they're going to be looking for those types of skills as well. So that is how you interview. strong, firm handshake. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I'm excited for this opportunity. Thanks for having me. Like, be friendly, be optimistic, make it lighthearted, but also at the same time pretty serious as well. So just take it serious. Dress up, dress nice, show up. So that is how you get a job, nice and simple. We do have a couple questions coming in really fast. Are there any perks for getting a job? So yes, there are perks for getting jobs. Depends on the department. Sometimes there will be a student discount for things like buses around campus or in the city, so you'll get free buses. Sometimes there's a student employee discount. Sometimes, like let's say you're working at a fast food restaurant on campus, sometimes you'll get a free meal when you get off. So that type of stuff is good. If you are a nursing or a medical major, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting a job on campus. The reason why is kind of weird though. The reason why I would highly recommend you get a job is because you get what we call a social security number. So social security number is a 9-digit number that every legal American has. And it's basically your state identification number or your identification number with the federal government. And so international students don't always get social security numbers. But if you get a job on campus, in order to collect taxes from you, the federal government's like, oh, that person's working and will pay taxes. Let's give that person a social security number. So then you get a social security number. Why is that helpful? Because in order to become a nurse, you need a social security number. Or in order to work in the healthcare profession, you need a social security number. So that is the big, huge perk if you're majoring in nursing or anything healthcare related. Or honestly, with any job, like any career after you graduate, it's helpful if you have a social security number. So even if it's just for one semester, I do recommend working on campus. Okay, I see another question about racism or discrimination. Yeah, racism and discrimination, it's not really going to happen. Well, it's horrible when it happens and is very, very rare when it happens. And so most people at universities are actually pretty level-headed, pretty cool, able to make friends, especially if they're working on campus. Like, they know that we're all working. Cool. They have bigger things to worry about. So as long as like you're cool, like don't be mean. Like most of the time, other people will just be cool with you as well. So yeah, on the rare occasion where let's say racism or discrimination does happen, that office that I told you about, the one that you would go to get a student job, yeah, you would just go back to them and be like, hey, so I'm having a situation, and talk with them about it. And they take things like that very, very seriously. So only bring it up if it's serious. So yes, discrimination, very, very rare. Okay, another question. Can you quit a job if, excuse me, can you quit a job if it's not working out for you? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you don't want to be that person that gets a job and quits like a week later, like 5 times in a row. Like, that's absurd. Even as a professional with people working 40 hours a week, I've seen some resumes where people don't work at a single place longer than like 5 months. What that tells me is that they interviewed well, they got the job, but they just weren't a good fit. So then after 5 months, the company just fired them. They just let them go. Or they got the job, they got bored, so they quit. So either case is not good, especially if it happens a lot, if it's reoccurring. So you want to show longevity. So Yeah, the longer that you could work in a position, awesome. Um, what if you don't get promoted? It's a student job. That's fine if you don't get promoted. You're not going to go from I'm working in the counter to being a general manager of the store. Like that doesn't necessarily happen. And so, yeah, have your expectations set the right way. Um, oh, good question. When will you be working? Like, is it morning, afternoon, evening, at night? It really depends on what it is that you want to do. And so I worked at one university where they had janitorial services. So people come in early morning or late evening to clean the place. And those jobs can start at like 3 in the morning. And so it really depends on your lifestyle, what type of job you really want. And so it's very rare that people will be working overnight. It's what we call the graveyard shift. And so chances are you won't be working the graveyard shift, but you will be working, during the day. So that is the most common. Okay, awesome. Well, great questions. Hopefully we covered everything that you're hoping to be able to learn. But yes, you can indeed get a job on campus 20 hours a week while you study, 40 hours a week while you have your vacation semester, but it has to be on campus. You'll be making at lowest minimum wage, which again is about $7 an hour. Usually it's about $12 an hour is what you'll be making, but it really depends on the state and to some extent the position. So yeah, making good money. And how do you get a job? You find the job listing, you apply for it using the application, your resume, then you interview for it. And if all that goes well, then you start working within like a week. So it's great to have you. Send us a message, admissions@brightered.com if you have any questions or anything you want us to cover. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Take care.